I'm going to introduce Christian Lindener, who was very kind to shorten his bio for us. So Christian is a serial entrepreneur who has co-founded 5 startups, including Reflex Aerospace, the first venture-backed satellite manufacturer in Europe, a virtual reality startup that was acquired by Booking.com and Skyroads, an open digital operation platforms for the urban air mobility market. He was also the CEO of Unio Enterprise in Germany, Europe's first low latency and high bandwidth satellite mega constellation. Before joining Mike 49, Christian served as head of Airbus Scale, Airbus Central Innovation Unit. He also served as managing director of Wera, Germany, Telefónica's CVC arm. Christian, welcome to the stage, and I'll let you introduce Kathryn.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the introduction.
Thank you.
Perfect. Just gonna sit down here. Is the mic working? Yeah, it is. Cool. Just down. Yeah. So welcome everybody. Many thanks for joining us today. I hope you guys can see us down there. It's my great pleasure here to be today with Kathryn, who will introduce herself a little bit later. But coming from, just gonna hold this like this one, from a company like Airbus with 56 billion euro in revenue, coming to somebody that has $96 billion under management, and is one of the biggest real estate privately held companies in the world. Welcome, Kathryn, and thanks for joining me today.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Applause. Cool. Interesting topic today. But first of all, I will let you introduce yourself with who you are and how you came to Hines, and then we get into some interesting questions.
Awesome. Chris, thank you so much. Thank you, Nikolai, and thank you to the global corporate venturing community for having me here in London with all of you. I'm Kathryn Scheckel, as Chris shared, and I work at Hines, which is a global real estate firm, not the ketchup company, although the names sound the same. Hines is named for our founder, Gerald Hines, who was a technical engineer by training and a true entrepreneur at heart. And I'll talk about him in a little bit more. But we've been privately held, family-owned for 65 years. Hines operates across the entire value chain of real estate, meaning we work in construction, development, acquisitions, investment, and then managing and driving value for assets. My role within Hines is leading, in particular, our global venture function, which I couldn't be more privileged to do. It's such a disruptive time right now in the world, and especially the built world has such a role to play. So I came to Hines from management consulting, and before that, I started my career in higher education in strategy and innovation, of pretty different fields. My background is as a biologist, a pianist, and I also have a master's in public policy. So somehow that all does make sense, but not necessarily all at once. So, yeah.
Perfect. So almost as long as my bio. But what I found particularly interesting, and we've been working now for 1 year already together. Now, talk briefly about Hines innovation structure, disruptive times. The built environment is also responsible for 30% of global CO2 emissions. So yes, it's a sense of urgency we have there. Now, when you started off the Global Venture Lab, let's get a little bit into the structure. What exactly is the Global Venture Lab or EXP doing? And I think particularly interesting for this audience here who are thinking about doing similar things, what was the trigger to start such a disruptive unit as EXP with the Global Venture Lab?
Sure. Well, I'll take us back in history just a bit. So Hines started in 1957 in Houston, Texas. That still is where our global headquarters sits. We have about 4,700 employees, and every single employee truly is innovative in their own way and form. So that culture of innovation has been core to the company in our last decades. We've grown organically, which is a really important component of our venture story. And it's really important to Hines that we don't grow by inorganic growth in a rapid way, that culture of Hines continues forward. So speeding all the way up then from the 50s into 2016, Hines was one of the first real estate companies to establish an Office of Innovation at the time. And this really was the predecessor to now what we call our Global Ventures team. It allowed Hines to get into the arena and to understand what's happening in this evolving space of prop tech, which I know you just heard a bit about from some of my colleagues at JLL on stage. Property technology is perhaps a cute name, but really, relating to technology intersecting with a legacy industry. Real estate is sitting at the middle, what we like to say, of the vectors of so many points of change of communities, cities, customers, and really we have a unique way through those vectors to realize solutions to some mega problems. So Hines set up an Office of Innovation. We engaged with other third parties by investing in their funds to really observe, watch, and bring those insights back to our core business. Speeding up into 2021, we had some natural evolution of some of our senior leaders, and our executive leadership team, which includes the Hines family, Jeff Hines and Laura Hines Pierce, who operate as our co-CEOs. Jeff is second generation Hines leader. Laura is the third generation coming into leadership alongside her father. But that executive team sat together in 21, and I was privileged to work with them to say, now that we've had a few years under our belt, we've seen how innovation can be impactful. How do we design actually the next decades ahead of the company? So really that generational component of Hines was crucial to our design for the venture function. So that meant we said, let's do a few things that are pretty complicated all at once. Hines is not scared of complex projects. It's kind of our secret sauce in the mixed-use development space, for example. So we committed as an executive leadership team, one, to building a venture studio to incubate startups from scratch. Two, to having an investments arm where we can make direct investments, super different motion and different skill set than historically we had. Also, indirect investing is still part of our strategy. And then the third arm of the venture team is all about partnering. Mm-hmm. And that can take a lot of different forms, and we still don't know yet where that will go. So importantly, we set this venture team up. We started testing. We found some other partners like Mach 49 to help enable us to move fast. And then Hines is organized. We divide the world into 8 geographic regions. We also said, let's set up a global region that includes our venture function, but also what we've already had, our global ESG function, and put them under one house. And so when you refer to EXP, EXP is a moniker that really signals the exponential growth that Hines believes ESG, environmental, social governance, or sustainability, just more simply initiatives, times venture, what those two units together really will mean for the built environment in the next decade. So that's how we sit in the Hines universe. It sits alongside our global investing platform. Our regions I mentioned, there's 8 of them, and then some of our central functions that just are the core of what makes Hines work. So that's how we came to be, and there's a long journey ahead.
Right. So you really established a build-buy partnership strategy around it, and everything is centralized into EXP. Is that how we can?
Yes, that's the easiest way to think of it. Yes, yeah. Venture and EXP, one and the same for this conversation. Yes.
Very cool. So before we go into what kind of topics are you looking into, which are very interesting and challenging at the same time. Now, from your experience as well, I mean, you had a previous life before Hines. Like, it is a family-owned company. Yes. Innovation is always challenging in big companies. Did this family involvement benefit innovation and setting this up?
It's a great question. And when I joined Hines, the thing that I was told is that Hines is really special. Hines does things differently, and it really is a family company, not in the way that we manage as a fiduciary, $100 billion in capital. We're highly institutionalized, but really meaning the culture of the firm. And I can't say now, being there 4 years, that isn't not true. It's very true. So in short, yes, the family component of the platform is crucial because it gives us the ability to take a very long-term view. And many of the challenges that we're trying to tackle, especially in the sustainability space, don't necessarily fit the venture cycle. So while we're committed to venture-style returns and creating venture ecosystems that look and feel like traditional VC, we also have a unique ability really to think generationally. The intent for Hines is to remain privately held and family-owned for its future across the next generation. So I think that gives the family more flexibility and support while also enabling the mindset of the leaders that sit at the helm of our executive leadership team to lean into something that is very maybe counter to what feels safe. You know, venturing every day is what we do when we build new buildings and skyscrapers, but if they fail, that's not a good outcome and not what we expect. So that kind of, the venture math is very different from real estate math. And bringing our leadership team along has been a core part of my duties among my team in the last couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah, which I can plus one on that. Sometimes when we have calls on new venture boards or committees, suddenly have a family member in it.
Yes.
Right. So that just speaks for the engagement of the family and really being in there and understanding what the Global Venture Lab is doing, right?
Yes, I think this is a great point. So our not to overly focus on the family, but because you brought it up, Chris, I'll share, the vision is over time that our third generation leadership is co-CEO of Hines together. And there are three third generation leaders in the business today. And that really multiplies the ability for Hines to bring that culture and influence, and not influenced by just telling what to do, but really understanding and bringing that across the business. So it's hugely important, but equally that cultural kind of cornerstone of what makes Hines is really felt by every employee that are across our team. So it's an important component of who we are.
Yeah. Oh, it's truly impactful. Now, it's an interesting topic on the build side.
Yes.
Right? How do you go? I mean, if you come from the challenge of the environment, the built environment is in. How do you focus on which topics actually to build out compared to those you partner or would invest in?
Yes.
How do you down select those topics?
Yeah. So we have a framework that we've developed, and ultimately at the heart of that framework is one, from a build perspective, is Hines really the right company to build this particular venture? And one important criteria that we've unlocked and really been explicit about is that Hines doesn't have to be a customer of everything that we build or things that we invest in. So that's really important. But we have said that whatever we build needs to leverage the core business of Hines. We are so diversified. We're in 395 cities and 30 countries. We have a lot of different use cases and pain points to solve. So it gives us a really broad spectrum of which to think about what to build. But our decision tree is, are we the right company actually to build this particular venture? Two, are there other players in the ecosystem that just make more sense for us to partner with? So that's not, I don't think, very different from other corporate-backed venture arms. And then for Hines, we really think about the force multiplication that our subject matter experts in-house can add to the ventures we're building. So we're benefited to have really at our table, around the table, experts across every product type in real estate. So living, multifamily, office, retail, et cetera. We have construction technical experts. We have operating experts. We have client experience experts. So that gives us just a different point of view. So we also think deeply about, who's already at the table. And then, last, similar to what we heard on the last panel, what are some of the challenges the business is facing that no one's solved? And if it's harder, Hines likes to run toward it instead of away from it. So that's another piece of our thesis on the build side. I think equally importantly, though, is having strong discipline. That we don't keep going and become a rebel without a cause, so to speak, that we have a very disciplined process in which we kill ideas or we pivot them. And that's okay. And celebrating that change is a hugely important component of the culture that we've been creating within venture. The worst case for us would be to wake up in the next 3 years and realize, wow, we've just invested a lot of time and resource in an area that may not be achieving the right product market fit or the right outcomes. So that's a bit of how we think about the build side with flexibility to pivot, but not shying away from the big problems.
Right. And you have found that the process to really build ventures in a repeatable and scalable way, and it's actually multiple ventures a year. Out of all those ventures, and I don't even know all of them, which one would be, or what is the topic where you find the most compelling, impactful at the moment?
That's a great question. It's hard to pick a favorite, I guess, is what you're asking me to do. Yeah. We have currently 3 ventures that are actively incubating or accelerating in some stage. We have a pipeline of 3 more, and we're building out a plan. Our steady state will be to have 12 new ventures starting on an annual basis across Americas, Europe, and Asia, probably evenly split, but maybe predominance in America, just given where the predominance of our portfolio is. I would say probably the venture that is solving one of the most complicated challenges, but just one portion of it right now, really has to do with sustainability. Maybe not surprising. As you said, real estate is responsible even closer
Right.
to 40% of the emissions, depending on what part of the value chain you look at, for carbon. And so whatever we can do, not only in our own portfolio for responsibilities to our investors, but for the built world to accelerate decarbonization and carbon mitigation strategies is huge. So one of our ventures called Sequel is incubating here out of Europe, is focused in the UK as the first go-to-market. And what they're doing is building, if you will, a marketplace website that's focused on matching asset managers with carbon solution providers and really vendors in a really smart way. Our industry in real estate is not necessarily as transparent as others. It's not as digitized. So there's a real niche area that's and a pain point the team found, especially for larger scale players, to find and identify the right solutions fast. So once I know that I want to decarbonize an asset, I have a budget, who do I actually call in the market, and what is the right solution partner? Is it solar? Is it wind?
Right.
Is it material? If I'm operating an asset, that's a different consideration than building. So to me, that has huge implications beyond just the initial information exchange. And our leadership board for that venture couldn't be more excited about the ability to accelerate for Hines, but more broadly the industry. And that's something we too don't want to only be the 100% owner necessarily of a venture like that. Of other partners at the table really amplify its outcomes.
Now, how do you ensure in a venture as Sequel? I mean, this has to be impactful. This needs to be fast. This needs to be different than all the corporate processes may allow it.
Yeah.
From operating business, how do you ensure to get the right talent in there?
It's a great question, and it is not easy, but I think, again, the commitment of the Hines family and firm leadership is huge. So we've said we want to bring non-real estate experts to the table, especially those, in this case, that have venture building experience. So once we have a notion of an idea, we've tested enough, and we said, yes, this is something Hines wants to build. We scout in the market for the right entrepreneur to bring in-house, and that's someone who is certainly experienced, multi-time founder is what we look for, and also has the right, perhaps, understanding of the power of a corporate-backed venture, and I'll use the word patience, but also understanding of what are the corporate mechanisms. And the other piece of this is having an operating partner to our ventures. We call this role the venture studio lead. And the gentleman that sits in that role is meant to help remove roadblocks and make sure that the team can really focus fiercely on venturing. So that's a huge role in navigating the ins and outs, because at the end of the day, to unleash the power of the mothership does require work that's different than building a venture alone. So we like to try to divide and conquer, if you will.
Excellent, excellent. Now, if you would go back in time, and if you guys have questions, we're going to have time for it after this last question.
Yeah.
Now, if you would take a time machine to travel back when you started your first day at Hines, I think for this audience, it's particularly interesting. What were things that worked really, really good, and especially what didn't work at all?
Yeah. Well, when I first started at Hines, I was in a very different role, and the office I sat in, it was me and 2 other people, and now that office, on that side of the office, is 4 times oversubscribed if everyone came in. So we've grown a lot in important ways that match our business pace and plans and partnerships. But looking back, maybe when we started the venture work and I was deeply involved there, I think things that worked really well is the stacking hands. At Hines, we're a very consensus-driven culture. It doesn't sound good probably for venture leaders to say, wow, does everyone have to agree? But at least at like the higher order mission, or like what's the fuzzy impressionistic picture that we're all running towards?
Yeah.
That's super important. So wouldn't change, the way that we build alignment. I might change a little bit of how do we educate and bring much more fast venture muscle. We probably need like a 20-pound weight, not the 5-pound weights that we started with. So I would probably say bringing some of that venture medicine more quickly into the organization, whether that's through other partners that we've been building a careful ecosystem with on our investing side, those that are trusted by the firm who have been there, done that from other corporations. I think those are ways to shorten the learning process that we've been on. But I couldn't be prouder of where we're at. Just 2 years into the journey.
Perfect. So I think you came for the right spot for everybody who's looking to talk to Kathryn Hines, looking for corporations, fellow CVCs, or want to know more about the ventures or the venture process. You're going to be here
I'll
all
be
day.
here. Several of my team members are here too. Please talk to us. We care deeply about areas that the built world impacts, which almost is every single industry, I think, represented in this room. We're solving problems in sustainability, how space and the use of it is evolving, and technology that's revolutionizing the built world. So come find us. We're looking for partners, or if you have an idea that we should tackle, we'd love to hear it.
Excellent.
Great.
Many thanks for being here
Thank you.
today, Kathryn. And Nicola, still time for questions or two questions? I think we can
you.
find those in the room. We have any?
Here
Where's one? There we go.
Try to speak loud.
Yeah,
we
please.
can hear you.
In the ventures you're building, are you planning to prepare for external investors to come in future rounds, or is this? Are you thinking of completely holding it within the Hines group
Very good
going
question.
forward?
Excellent question. Thank you so much. So the question for those that couldn't hear it is, are we planning to spin out ventures and take third-party capital? The short answer is yes. Hugely important. Hines is not the 100% owner of all of our ventures. We know the ventures then, therefore, will have limited ability to grow, and our intent is to achieve venture-style outcomes in everything that we do. There may be cases where we feel this venture is so strategic to how we drive alpha or differentiation at our asset level or our business. We might spin a venture in, but we think that that's probably, greatly under, 50%, way under 50%. So we've planned for that pathway, and that's how we, actively talk about the governance around venturing.
Very good question.
you.
Do we have another one? The last one? Otherwise, Nicola just got up. I think that is a sign to
All right.
big applause to Kathryn, and thanks for being there. Thanks for listening. Thank you.